Welcome to this new class, Introduction to Sociology. We're moving on, and one would wonder, and some people no doubt have said, that a person who is doing theology should be required to do sociology. They can't see the connections. Well, there is a connection. Knowledge is interlocking. And therefore, if you lock yourself into the Bible alone, you are going to be an idiot. And you will not be able to reach people. You need to be exposed to the knowledge on a whole. Yes, you are specializing in theology. And theology at this level is bigger than the dictionary definition, study of God. It's not just that. Theology is a discipline. Sociology is a discipline. Psychology is a discipline. Mathematics is a discipline. And a discipline is made up of a number of courses. Of course, you got to specialize, but it is also made up of other courses that might not relate directly to your area, your major, but they're meant to build you up, that you can be rounded. Hence the need for sociology. And this is just the introduction to sociology. Let us pause a prayer. Father, thank you for your greatness and goodness and mercy and truth. I commit this class to you and the students. I pray, Lord, a blessing upon them. In you, Lord, we live and move and have our beings. You're not far from any one of us. And Lord, I pray you take control. I pray you run things. I pray you uphold with your righteous right hand. I ask your blood coverage upon myself and upon the participants in the course and upon the system that is engaged to make this delivery possible. In the precious name I pray, amen. Now, according to these scholars, each field of academic study has its own cast of characters, and sociology is no exception. Although countless individuals have contributed to sociology's development into a social science, several individuals deserve special mention. So we're going to be looking here at the founders of sociology, And of course, scholars and scholars disagree, but there are certain names that will always come upon, and their philosophies and contributions will always come upon these names. And as these scholars have said, each field of academic study has its own cast of characters. History is a discipline. And you're going to cover, certain names when you're studying history. Mathematics, you're going to come up with certain names when you're studying mathematics. So on. Now the first person, and I'm just listing the name here because we're going to be looking more in depth at these persons. The first person here that we look at is Auguste Comte, Auguste, Comte, Comte, no P's in it. Auguste Comte, the French philosopher, and was born 1798, and he lived to 1857. 57, so he lived for 59 years. He died young, and he has often been called the father of sociology. He was the first to use the term. Auguste Comte was the first to use the term sociology, and he used it in 1838, at that time it was 40, to refer to the scientific study of society. So sociology is that scientific study that is done on society. He believed that all societies develop and progress through the following stages of what he held: religious, metaphysical, and scientific. Comte argued that society needs scientific knowledge based on facts and evidence to solve its problems, not speculation and superstition, which characterize the religious and metaphysical stages of social development. So social societies have been, I don't want to say marred, but has been riddled and marked by speculation and superstition. Comte viewed the science of sociology as consisting of two branches: dynamics, or the study of the processes by which societies change, and statics, or the study of the processes by which societies endure. They change, but they endure, they don't break up. He also envisioned the sociologists as eventually developing a base of scientific social knowledge that would guide society into positive directions. And let me just say that it is important for you to make that distinction between natural science and social science. Natural science and social science. This is social science, not natural science. And we're living in the age of knowledge explosion. Just read up if you are not sure. Read up on both. Just take a look at both, and let me have a and give me a little thing on it, so that I can know that you have done it. You have done the reading, right? The next person who's considered an early contributor to the discipline is called, or is known as Herbert Spencer. He was born 1820. Comte died when? 1857. So I don't know if he knew Comte or he knew about him, but he lived at the same time when Comte was alive. He was born when Comte was alive, because he was born 1820, and he died 1903. So he got something. He died about 83. Herbert Spencer. He was that 19th century Englishman, and he compared society to a living organism with interdependent parts. Well, he says in interdependent parts, the organism is made up of systems. Of course, systems are made up of parts or organs, and they're all interdependent, of course. Change in one part of society causes change in the other parts, so that every part contributes to the stability and survival of society as a whole. Or, in this case, it is a positive effect, but it can also have a negative effect. Economic decline, recession, begins in one country, and it affects the globe. Sorry, all major economies. So each part, society, see the world as, you have many societies. You have societies within societies. But see, look at the global picture. There's this global society, which is made up of a number of societies. and something goes wrong in one location, a major thing like recession or war, say there's war in the Middle East, it's going to impact the price of oil because ships are not going to want to travel those troublesome waters that easily. So it is going to impact the price of oil, which will impact the price of gas and electricity, which is going to impact the prices of goods and services, which will impact our pockets. So there's this interdependence in life. Yes, interdependence. Um, Family, education, government, industry, and religion comprise just a few of the parts of the organism of society. Just a few. These are examples. Family. And family is the basic unit in society. That's the foundation. Families make up societies as blocks, make up buildings. Or if you're in a country where you do not use building blocks, you use bricks, make up buildings. Spencer suggested that society will correct its own defects through the natural processes of survival of the fittest. And of course, that is coming from Charles Darwin. The societal organism naturally leans toward homeostasis, or balance and stability. Social problems work themselves out when the government leaves society alone. I don't know. Well, I'm listening to his view, and don't think that everything that is said should be just taken. You are an individual and you have a right to, you don't just object, but you question. And you subject what you have heard to greater analysis. And you should also research what you have heard for other information and views. They might confirm what you have heard, they might disagree with what you have heard, or they might enable you to expand on what you have heard. That is how life is. Social problems work themselves out when the government leaves society alone. The fittest, the rich, powerful, and successful enjoy their status because nature has selected them to do so. I am not sure I to agree with that. I know that people, a lot of rich people, if they tell you how they were able to acquire their wealth, you'll be amazed. I know I was at the funeral of this man. I knew him for a good while, and I knew that he had good wealth, both in land and he had money, good money, because he talked of lending money to the bank and so on, and lots of property, and it was in chicken rearing and cane and and so on. Big top farmer, but his English wasn't good. Wasn't good. Not only that, he was not educated. And one person, a mature man who spoke at his funeral, he died at 80 something, who spoke at his funeral, said back in the early 60s, when he came back from either the United States of America or Canada with his master's degree in agronomy. Now, that was not an ordinary man. Back in the 60s to get a master's degree, because there weren't many first degree people, there were not many people with first degrees in Jamaica at the time. And he came back to Jamaica with his master's degree, and he was told, and he got a job at this sugarcane estate, and he was told by his employers that he should listen to that same man, was not an employer, or not an employee, well, not an employee, but he used to supply cane to the estate. He should listen to him. This man was not educated, and this man had his master's degree. And this man with his master's degree was told by his employers, listen to that man. Don't dismiss what anything he says. Another thing that was said about this man at his funeral was that during World War II, as a youngster, could have been maybe 16, thereabout, talking about World War II, 1938, 39, 40, and so on. It ended in 1945, World War II. He, a teenager, worked out in his mind that the foreign goods like saltfish, corn pork, herring, these are pickled meat and fish, corn pork, saltfish or salted fish, herring which was pickled mackerel, and so on. Shad, there was one by the name of shad was pickled, would not, the shipment to Jamaica would be disrupted by the war, which is true. And he theorized, and not only theorized, but he set about to doing planting callaloo, because the people were going to be needing alternative to these things. He started planting callaloo. He planted callaloo, and he made a fortune out of it because of how he went about doing it. He never ran out of it. He had different plots, some being cut, some near ready to be cut, some still younger, some seedlings there getting ready to be planted. He never ran out of it. And people were there buying from him when they had the opportunities to plant as well, but they did not. I said that to say, some people, and according to Herbert Spencer, they were made rich by nature. They were selected by nature. Well, I am not going to, I have shared what I've shared. Some people, it would seem as if they were born to be rich. Some people were born to become intellectuals. And of course, you are going to need money too. But the primary objective of the intellectual is not to become rich in money, in terms of money and property. His primary objective is to become rich intellectually, to acquire more knowledge. And you put him there in business, he might not do a good job, He might not do a good job. In contrast, nature has doomed the unfit, the poor, weak, and unsuccessful to failure. Of course, Herbert Spencer, as a social scientist, is not dealing to superstition. Superstition and speculations. So it says in nature. The theologian might say God. I don't know if God, I don't know. The theologian might say God. But something is there in society. Whether it is a divine control or just a natural control, but something is there directing things. There's this thing happening, and some people will not make it out of their situation. There are persons who try and fail, try to make money, try to invest, they have made investments, and they failed. When I heard it the first time, I had a problem with it. But I am much more mature now, and I have seen it. I've seen it. People have worked hard and have tried, and they have failed. And others have made it out of nothing. They have made it out of nothing. So there is this force in society, whether it is nature or divine, but this force controls things. Herbert Spencer is a social scientist, so he says in nature. I won't argue with that, but sorry. Let me just say that I acknowledge that there is this control that selects some people in the process to be whatever, to be great, and it would seem as if it rejects some people. So you don't come to anything, you're not seen. Because you listen to the songs and air. Some of these guys who are singing can't spell, They can't put a proper sentence together. And you're there and you're able to, you're intellectually competent. Yet nobody knows you outside of your little community. You're not known. Nobody is seeking after you. You're not sought after. You're not recognized. So there is this thing. They must fend for themselves without social assistance if society is to remain healthy and in progress to higher levels. Government interference in the natural order of society weakens society by wasting the efforts of its leadership in trying to defy the laws of nature. Of course, it's not saying that there shouldn't be government, but it's talking about government. And it's not alone in this, The government shouldn't try to interfere with everything. The government should recognize that certain things are happening because that's how life is. An inventor. It's just the government should so arrange society that here is an ordinary person who society bypasses, but he has an ability and he begins to create a particular thing. The government should look at it and say, there is something great here. You need help. You need assistance. How can we help you to make more of these? Instead of putting things in place that will hold you back, because governments do that. So I agree here. Now that we are looking at that full introduction, we are just introducing these founding fathers. The next person we're going to look at is known as Karl Marx. Karl Marx. You might have heard of Marxism. He was not a political leader in the sense that he never became prime minister or president of a country. But he bequeathed to society and to people a philosophy known as communism. But let us look at what he has to say here before we get into that. Not, according to Marx, not everyone has shared Spencer's vision of societal harmony and stability. And that would also include Comte, because he talks about stability in society, that state of being static, and also the change, the conflict, the change. Now, according to Marx, chief among those who disagreed was the German political philosopher and economist Karl Marx. He was born 1818 and he died 1883. He didn't live as long as Spencer. Again, they overlapped. They weren't born the same year. Spencer was born 1820. Marx was born 1818. But they also overlap with Comte. I don't know if they knew one another in those while they were alive, or they ever met or read the works of one another. I don't know. But he was a political philosopher and economist. He was a German. And according to some experts or authorities, he was a Jew who rejected Judaism and Christianity and so on. He observed society's exploitation of the poor by the rich and powerful. So he's not saying that the rich has become rich because nature has made him rich. He's saying the rich has become rich because the rich has exploited the poor. Marx argued that Spencer's healthy societal organism was a falsehood. I wouldn't say it was a falsehood. And this is where I disagree with these scholars. Marx was a scholar, and I will not agree with everything. I wouldn't call it a falsehood. Spencer spoke from a particular perspective, and Marx is speaking from another perspective. Rather than interdependence and stability, Marx claimed that society or social conflict, especially class conflict and competition, mark all societies. I'm not saying no to what he's saying, and I don't see how what he has stated here, how it has differed from Spencer, what Spencer stated. There's this interdependence in society because society is an organism. Because the wealthy doesn't need the poor. There are some things the wealthy will not be able to do for himself. And you don't have just wealthy and poor. You have people in the middle. They are not rich and they are not poor. But they have skills that they have been able to develop. They have been to universities and training centers, and they have skills that you, the rich man, you have the dream and the capital to build a factory. You don't have the skills. And to improve on the factory, sugar factory, clothing, factory for clothing, car, whatever. Generally, the person who has the money to build that factory, to set it up, is not the person who has set it up, and is not the person who has worked there. So here we see the interdependence. It's not just a matter of conflict. Class conflict and competition. Sorry. The class of capitalists that Marx called bourgeoisie particularly enraged him. Members of the bourgeoisie own the means of production and exploit the class of laborers called the proletariat, who do not own the means of production. I don't think I have to own the means of production or if I don't own the means of production or have shares in the means of production, it necessarily follows that I'm being exploited. I don't agree with that. I work for you, my skills, and you need the services of my skills. We agree at a certain wage, and I am to give you work. I'm going to make sure that I am honest, and I'm going to give you what you're to get. And you give me what I'm to get. We agree at $100,000 a month, or a week, or whatever. You're going to pay me that money for my services In my view, I do not call that exploitation. Marx believed that the very nature of the bourgeoisie and the proletariat inescapably lock the two classes in conflict. I don't know. I don't agree. But he then took his ideas of class conflict one step further. He predicted that the laborers are not selectively unfit, but are destined to overthrow the capitalists. And when they overthrow the capitalists, over there, the person will be there working, and running the factory, operating the factory or the machine. But if you put him in the manager's seat, he can't manage. He's not suited for that. He has no vision. If you give him the work to do, he'll do it. But that's all he's able to do. I've seen people like that. Okay, so much for Marx, and we have looked at 3. We'll come back and finish Marx at the next class. I want you to do your reflection and email me. Thank you.